Our top focus story on the broadcast is this massive showdown between the Congress and the BJP over Prime Minister Narendra Modi's security lapse in Punjab. Top government sources have told India Today that there could be a connivance between Punjab administration and protesters. Sources are now telling India Today only the Punjab police knew about the change in the Prime Minister's route, and never in recent history has a security lapse of this nature happened in Prime Minister's security. Sources have also told India Today normally the Chief Minister, the Chief Secretary and the Director General of Police are a part of the cavalcade, or they're there to receive the Prime Minister and accompany him. But neither were present today. In fact, cars reserved for the Chief Secretary and the DGP remained a part of the PM's cavalcade. Did top officers of the state have an inkling of what was to happen and decided to skip being a part of the cavalcade? Punjab Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi, of course, refuted the charges and said he did not go and meet the Prime Minister as members of his staff had tested COVID positive just yesterday. The Chief Minister also said that he was engaged in the task of resolving issues of farmers and protesters on the streets till 3 in the morning, and he says that the Director of Intelligence Bureau actually thanked him and the Punjab Police for the effort.
ਜਦੋਂ ਕੱਲ ਮੈਂ ਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਦਫ਼ਤਰ ਦੇ ਬੰਦਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਾਣਾ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕਰੋਨਾ ਟੈਸਟ ਕਰਾਇਆ ਤਾਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਹਰ ਟਾਈਮ ਨਾਲ ਰਹਿਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਹੁਸਨ ਲਾਲ ਜੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਪ੍ਰਿੰਸੀਪਲ ਸੈਕਟਰੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਕਰੋਨਾ ਪੋਜ਼ਿਟਿਵ ਆ ਗਏ। मेरा एक PA हरी सिंह सरकारी तौर पर जोड़ा साढ़े नाल है वो करोना पॉजिटिव आ गया। कैबिनेट ने मैनू राय दी कि सानू प्रधानमंत्री जी के ऑफिस नू दस देना चाहिए है, इसलिए मैं अपने फाइनांस मिनिस्टर मनप्रीत बादल जी की ड्यूटी लगाई कि वह प्रधानमंत्री जी का बठिंडे हवाई अड्डे ते स्वागत करन।
And India Today's National Affairs editor Rahul Srivastav now joins me for more on this story. Rahul, with your long experience covering the Prime Minister's office, political rallies, Prime Minister's road shows, have you ever reported on something like this, that the Prime Minister stranded on a highway on a flyover for 20 long minutes and the state government says, we weren't aware of an alternate route, last minute change, we didn't have any contingencies in place?
Gaurav, this is unprecedented. In 1988, after a change in the laws, when the SPG was created, since then, we have never seen that the Prime Minister of the country, one of the most zealously protected men on earth, has been stranded out in public, not just stalled in terms of a traffic or something, but stranded on top of a flyover which exposes him further for 20 odd minutes. This is unprecedented in the history of the SPG or the Prime Minister's security or the country after Rajiv Gandhi, the late Prime Minister, was assassinated in an unfortunate incident and the SPG was created. Now, Gaurav, what's to be noted here is that there is a sequence of events which seems to have happened, that Mr. Channi has come out and said that he had been in touch with somebody who had Omicron, who had was tested positive, so he was not there. So Manpreet Badal, the State Finance Minister, was his nominee to receive the Prime Minister. Gaurav, till the election code of conduct is in place, till then the Prime Minister was on an official visit this time. So as part of the protocol, the Chief Secretary and the DGP are supposed to receive him. Now, they were missing. Not only that they were missing, also their vehicles did travel without any occupants as part of the PM's convoy. Now, what we are told by sources in the SPG and the Home Ministry, that the Prime Minister actually waited at the airport and the SPG and the coordination team was in touch with the DGP's office. It is only when an information was flashed that the route has been secured and a route has been briefed, only after that the PM's convoy left the airport.
Yes.
Not only that, there was an assurance that the route has been sanitized. Now, after a route has been sanitized, a Prime Minister route has a protest. Not only that, there is a traffic congestion. These are two virtual no-nos as far as the Prime Minister's convoy is concerned.
No, seriously.
There are too many coincidences in this entire episode.
It's the Prime Minister of the country. The Prime Minister of the country has to travel on a road, and it is said that the road has been sanitized. The DGP gives an assurance, and the road hasn't been sanitized. Or if it has been sanitized, there's a breach. Can the Chief Minister, Rahul, in your appreciation and your long career, reporting on matters of security, especially of a party that has lost a Prime Minister in office, Indira Gandhi assassinated by Satwant Singh, Beyant Singh, and the fact that Rajiv Gandhi, as former Prime Minister, was killed by LTTE, can the Chief Minister just say, I can't remove protesters from the streets, they only came to protest, I can't shoot them, we can't do a lathi charge?
Gaurav, especially in the wake of a protest by farmers, the state LIU must have given information to the state police. It is impossible that the LIU won't have informed the state government there are protests likely. One. Second very important thing here is, Gaurav, that the Prime Minister's route once sanitized, there is a blue book element which comes into play. And that very clearly says that any disruptor or any breach has to be dealt with certain amount of stringence. But if they were not removed despite police presence, points to another coincidence of the story. Gaurav, now the serious implication of it is that if this is what is going to be the trend as far as the election campaigning is concerned, and the Congress goes ahead and actually celebrates it, that how is the Josh asking the Prime Minister, remember that of the 5 states which are going to polls, Gaurav, 4 of them are ruled by the BJP. Now, if the Congress thinks that it can carry out an operation like this and celebrate it, it is going to muddy the waters as far as the campaigning is concerned. It takes political attitudes to a very, very different level, and it is going to cause serious problems. Because this time around, it was not an ordinary dignitary, but the Prime Minister of the country who stood in a vehicle for 20 minutes on top of a flyover in a state where intelligence agencies keep talking about insurgency and pro-Khalistani support.
Oh, absolutely. And stay with me, Rahul. We also going to be joined by my colleague Shiv Arur for more on the story. Remember, this has massive national security ramifications. As Shiv was just telling us a short while back, this is a place which is barely 10 kilometers from the Pakistan border. Remember, Pakistan has been using drones to send in weapons and IEDs, and they've used this in the past. And that is where you had the Prime Minister of our country who was stranded on top of a flyover for 20 long minutes. The centre-state showdown over Prime Minister Narendra Modi's security breach continues. Punjab's Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi, he denied allegations of the Bharatiya Janata Party against the Punjab government over security breach. Channi said there was no lapse in security protocol and it's an attempt by the centre to create politics on the issue.
टोटल प्रोग्राम ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬਠਿੰਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਫਿਰੋਜ਼ਪੁਰ ਜਾਣ ਦਾ ਬਾਈ 에ਅਰ ਸੀ 3 ਹਵਾਈ ਅੱਡੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹੈਲੀਪੈਡ ਉਹ ਫਿਰੋਜ਼ਪੁਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਣਾਏ ਗਏ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਜੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਉਤਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਇੱਕ 'ਚ ਦੂਜੇ 'ਚ ਤੀਜੇ 'ਚ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲਿਖਤੀ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਆਇਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਸੋਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ कि बाई रोड भी प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਦੀ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਖਤਰੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਜੋੜਿਆ ਜਾਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ये बिल्कुल गलत है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी जब पंजाब में आए तो उनकी सिक्योरिटी लैप्सेस दिखाकर उनको खतरे के साथ कोई जोड़ा जा रहा है ये राजनीति इसमें नहीं होनी चाहिए वी हैव एवरी रिस्पेक्ट फॉर आवर प्राइम मिनिस्टर कोई भी ऐसी बात नहीं हुई कि उनकी शान में या उनकी सिक्योरिटी को कोई खतरा हुआ हो पंजाब सरकार पंजाब पुलिस इसमें सक्षम है ये
When Punjab is also a state where a chief minister has been assassinated, Punjab is also a state that has borne the brunt of Pakistan state-sponsored terror. So clearly security can never be taken lightly. There are many big questions here that need to be answered, questions that are being asked. And this is where the Bharatiya Janata Party has hit out at the Charanjit Singh Channi government. They've also questioned 10 Janpath and the Congress headquarters in Delhi, 24 Akbar Road. Why was the Prime Minister's security detail given a false clearance? Who leaked information about the Prime Minister's route to protesters? Why did state government not respond to efforts to secure the Prime Minister's cavalcade? Why did Congress leaders erupt with joy over the breach, asking how's the Josh? Let's listen in to the BJP's charge and the Congress's defense.
Such is the breakdown of law and order in the state of Punjab that the DGP police claims he is incapable of providing security support to the Prime Minister's office, to the Prime Minister's security detail. Why was the Prime Minister's security detail given a false clearance of the route that the Prime Minister was to be undertaken? Why did the security detail not receive any response from the state administration when the Prime Minister's security was breached and there was an exposure in his security for 20 minutes? And why did the Congress leadership erupt with joy when the Prime Minister of your country and mine had his security breached?
Punjab witnessed an unprecedented political drama by a BJP which has lost written on its face, which has been rejected by the people of Punjab and is being rejected by the people of UP, as also other election-going states. Fearing complete wipeout in the 5 election-going assemblies, BJP has tried to create a political drama of a so-called breach in the security of the Prime Minister. We reject the charge completely and comprehensively.
Rahul Srivastav stays with me. Also with me from Ground Zero, Firozpur, is India Today's Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu. Kamal, you've been speaking both to the Punjab Police and to sources in the Ministry of Home Affairs. Explain to our viewers the breach in Prime Minister Narendra Modi's security and Punjab Police's response.
Well, Charanjit Singh Channi has expressed regret, but it does raise question marks regarding Punjab Police because for a VVIP visit of this nature, usually contingency plans are part of this entire protocol. So we did see, and we had visited Firozpur earlier as well, and we knew that there was a talk about the main plan, and because the weather was inclement, there was a contingency plan as well in place. However, what we've been told is just 30 kilometers short before Hosseini-Wala, that's where when Prime Minister was on his way towards the National Martyrs Memorial, that is when there was a blockade, and that is where he had to take a U-turn because there were protests which were going on. Now, Chief Minister Channi has said that this was a protest and this was not an attack on Prime Minister, and he also went on to say that the attendance in his rally was thin, but clearly he cannot shy away from the responsibility. What, however, he said is they're willing to look into the aspect of security lapse. They're willing to carry out an investigation. Now, we know that BJP has gone all guns blazing. Obviously so. It's regarding the Prime Minister's security. Also the fact that this was supposed to be the biggest rally, especially in Punjab, ahead of the polls. The code of conduct has still not kicked in. But yes, what we saw was there were a number of security concerns. One, were the DGP as well as Chief Secretary not present as being suggested? There are officers within Punjab Police who say senior officers were present during that meeting. The other part being the sort of blockade which really happened. Only once the clearance is given for the convoy or the cavalcade to move, that is when that green signal is given, do they really start. And from Bhatinda, they were originally planning to fly down to Firozpur and thereafter to the rally ground. But here we saw, because of the heavy rains, he decided to go by road, which was part of the contingency program. So several shortcomings.
Which was part of the contingency program. That's a very major point you're making there, Kamal, that there was a plan B, there was a contingency plan, and Rahul, yet that route was not secured. And Rahul, you, Kamal and I, we've covered the Prime Minister's cavalcade earlier, and now there is a Punjab Police pilot vehicle that goes in front. After some distance, then there is the SPG vehicle and there is an entire cavalcade. Each vehicle has to give a green light for the Prime Minister's cavalcade to move forward. There was a breach at multiple levels here, it seems, Rahul.
Gaurav, it is not just an escort which is ahead of the Prime Minister's convoy. In fact, there is an advance escort which actually moves nearly 5 to 10 minutes before the Prime Minister's convoy arrives at a particular spot. That advanced escort actually is the one which is ensuring that to inform the teams and the convoy coming back that the route is clear. Now, if there was nothing reported by this advance escort and these farmers came suddenly, they can't be in large numbers. Definitely what one can say is, Gaurav, that there was, as Kamaljit said, Prime Minister, when he moves, say from his house at Lok Kalyan Marg to, say, Parliament, there is never one route. There is always 2 to 3 routes actually. And the Prime Minister then suddenly takes one route. But all those 3 routes are secured as each one of them on which the Prime Minister is going to travel. Now, if the Prime Minister is going by helicopter, there is always a contingency plan. There is always a plan. There is always also an evacuation plan. All these are put in place before the Prime Minister even sets his foot in any state.
Rahul,
or
give me
any
a
city.
moment. BJP leader and Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. Let's listen in.
उनकी सुरक्षा में जो चूक हुई है उसकी जिम्मेदार कौन है, और बजाय जिम्मेदारी तय करने के कांग्रेस के युवा कार्यकर्ता उत्सव मना रहे हैं। मुख्यमंत्री, उपमुख्यमंत्री, गृह मंत्री पंजाब सरकार के वो अनर्गल बयानबाजी कर रहे हैं। कांग्रेस पार्टी के मुख्य प्रवक्ता वो कंफ्यूजन पैदा करने के बयान दे रहे हैं। ये निश्चित रूप से देश के और लोकतांत्रिक देश के, गणतांत्रिक देश के व्यवस्थाओं को ध्वस्त करने का कुत्सित षड्यंत्र है। देश का प्रधानमंत्री, देश के 135 करोड़ लोगों का प्रधानमंत्री है, उसकी सुरक्षा में सेंध के जिम्मेदार लोगों के खिलाफ तुरंत कार्रवाई हो, इसे सुनिश्चित किया जाना चाहिए। भारतीय जनता पार्टी जिस प्रचंड गति से आगे बढ़ रही है, आगामी चुनाव में अपनी हार को अवश्यंभावी मान करके पॉलिटिकल फ्रस्ट्रेशन के तहत जिस तरह से कांग्रेस पार्टी ने अपनी सरकार और प्रशासन के अधिकारियों के साथ मिलकर के इस तरह का षड्यंत्र किया है, यह निश्चित रूप से निंदनीय है और देश की जनता इसके लिए न कांग्रेस पार्टी को कभी माफ करेगी और न पंजाब की सरकार को ही। देश के शहीदों का अपमान किया गया, शहीदों को श्रद्धांजलि देने के लिए प्रधानमंत्री को जाने नहीं दिया गया।